Session 19, Tapping Your Inner Genius.
Another reason that I can say with complete confidence that you are a genius is that you have access to a mind that is far greater than anything that you could ever devise or develop on your own. Throughout all of human history, going back 4,000 years to the ancient Egyptian writings, there has been discussion of mankind having access to a greater mind. And this mind has been called things like the universal subconscious mind, or the collective unconscious, or the superconscious. Napoleon Hill calls it infinite intelligence. Ralph Waldo Emerson says we lie in the lap of an immense intelligence like a cork floating in the ocean, and that we have access to this intelligence at any time to bring us the answers we need and to solve the problems that face us. Carl Jung called it the supraconscious mind, the mind that is above other minds, and we call it, for the purposes of this talk, we call it the superconscious. You have a superconscious mind which you use in a random and haphazard way all the time. As a matter of fact, your superconscious mind is the source of all inspiration, it's the source of motivation, it's the source of enthusiasm, it's the source of excitement, it's the source of hunches, it's the source of insights, it's the source of flashes of intuition, it's the source of creativity and innovation, it's the source of all brand new ideas or thoughts or information that come into the world. For instance, Mozart was able to hear in a single second, he was able to hear an entire concerto, an entire symphony would come into his mind complete in one instant, and all he would do is sit and transcribe it and write it out of his mind onto paper. They said that he used to write his music note perfect the first time. Beethoven came up with one of his great concerts or his great symphonies in a single instant, although it took him 6 weeks to write it down. The entire concert was perfect, complete in his mind in a second. Many of the great inventions, many of the great discoveries, many of the great breakthroughs in history, in literature, in art, in music have been the result of a flash that has come in a moment of daydreaming, while asleep, while in the middle of a conversation, and you have access to this mind as well. Now let me tell you some of the characteristics of the superconscious mind. As I said, imagine you have your intelligence, which is your IQ, your knowledge, your experience, your wisdom, and so on. But in addition to that, you are a genius because you have access to this incredible mind that has every idea and every bit of intelligence ever known or available to the universe is available to you at virtually every instant of time. The discovery of the superconscious and your understanding of the superconscious can and will change your life. The superconscious mind or superconscious capacity makes your capacities unlimited. You are no longer restricted to what you know, what you can access, what you can do physically and mentally. You have an external source that you can draw on, like an energy source, to bring you answers to your questions and to move you towards your goal. Now, one of the characteristics of the superconscious mind, for instance, that when it computes on a problem or a difficulty that you have, it has access to all data stored in your subconscious mind. It has access to all data stored in the subconscious. That means everything that you've ever learned in your life, every bit of information you've ever read, every experience you've had, every conversation, every movie, television, radio, magazine, it's all stored in your subconscious mind permanently. As they say, we have permanent memory, but we have lousy recall. Every experience you've ever had in your life has been permanently stored. However, when the superconscious mind calculates or computes, it has access to everything you've ever learned. However, it can discriminate between valid and invalid data. In other words, when the superconscious mind computes on a problem that you are working with, it will give you an answer that is based only on valid information. There are many things that you have in your mind which you can think to be true, but they're not true at all. You may have read them, you may have heard them, you may have surmised them or concluded that a certain thing was true, but the superconscious, in bringing you an answer, knows the difference between what is true and what is not true. Sometimes you'll come up with an idea or a solution that will seem to be inconsistent with what you thought was the truth or what you thought was reality, but when you pursue it a little bit, you'll find that what you thought was true was not true, and your answer is correct. Now, a second characteristic of the superconscious mind is it has access to data outside your experience. It has access to data outside your experience. That means that you can get answers outside your own experience. You don't have to know everything or have everything in your mind. That it has access to data, it can bring you ideas, information, and insights. For instance, with regard to this, we reckon in calculating that every single person has on the way to and from work, about 4 ideas per year is the estimate done by one researcher. 4 ideas per year, any one of which could make you a millionaire. You'd be driving along. How many times have you had the experience where you're driving along or you're going about your day-to-day business and you see the need for a product or a service, and you say, now why doesn't somebody do that? Or why doesn't somebody make that or sell that? And you say, well, must be a good reason, and you forget all about it. Then a year or 2 later, somebody comes out with that same product or service and makes $1 million, and you say, I thought of that. I thought of that a couple of years ago. The difference was that the person who came up with the idea may have come up with it at the same time you did. Maybe you tapped into this energy source simultaneously, but that person had confidence or faith in their ideas, and you did not. There's a funny line from Groucho Marx, and Groucho Marx once said, I would never join a club that would have a person like me for a member. Very often we turn down our own ideas because they're our ideas. We say, that's my idea, it can't be any good. Listen to the ideas that come to you on a day-to-day basis, because very often, if one of your goals is to achieve financial independence, this mind will send you the ideas that you need to achieve financial independence. Here's the third characteristic of the superconscious mind, is it functions on a non-conscious basis 24 hours a day. It functions 24 hours per day when you are going about your normal business. That means that once you have programmed a goal or a problem or a difficulty or any question at all into the superconscious by thinking about it, dwelling upon it, getting it clearly defined in your mind, you can put it aside and go on with the rest of your work. And what will happen is that it will compute and work, and then it will bring you exactly the answer you need. We'll come to that in a second. The superconscious mind automatically and continuously solves every problem on the way to your goal. Automatically and continuously solves every problem. All right, put a line here. Solves every problem. That's why you don't have to be able to see your goal. You only have to take the first step, and as you take each step and resolve the difficulty that is immediately facing you. In the Bible, there's a beautiful line that says, this one thing I do, forsaking all others. If you just do one thing, the superconscious will resolve the next and the next and the next. You take them one step at a time, like a hurdler takes one hurdle at a time, like a journey is one step at a time. The superconscious mind will automatically and continuously solve every problem on the path to your goal exactly as you meet it and exactly in the way you require. Now, a fifth quality of the superconscious mind is that it is capable of goal-oriented motivation. Sometimes people say, well, I'm not motivated. And invariably, when you talk to a person who is not motivated, you find that there's nothing that they want very badly. When you decide upon a goal or an objective, something you want to be, have, or do, the superconscious mind releases motivation. It is the superconscious mind that gives you the energy and the enthusiasm and the excitement that moves you toward it, but it requires a goal that you intensely desire. That's why we talk so much about goals in this course. Goal-oriented motivation, it releases ideas and energy for goal attainment. The superconscious mind is a source of what is called free energy. In other words, you can actually tap into this energy, and when you're excited about a goal, it doesn't matter how physically fatigued you are, you seem to be able to tap into a source of energy outside yourself that can run you and propel you, sometimes day after day, week after week, on only a few hours sleep a night. Everybody's had the experience of being caught up and involved in something that's really important, really exciting, really driving, requiring tremendous commitment, and you just have energy flowing continuously. Nikola Tesla, the great electrical genius, was actually able to tap this free energy to run the electric lights and the electric appliances in his home in a way that we still don't understand. But in order for goal-oriented motivation to be released by the superconscious, you must have clear, specific goals. This is the key. The goals must be clear. Clear, specific goals are what release this motivation. There's an old saying, which is a little bit trite. It says, feeling listless, make a list. What it means is that if you're feeling listless and you make a list of 10 things that you want to accomplish in the next year, you will find that just writing that list of 10 things will give you a jolt of energy, almost like a detonator going off. Now, a sixth characteristic of the superconscious mind is that it responds to clear, authoritative commands. Responds to clear, authoritative commands. Now, what are clear, authoritative commands? Well, one example of clear authoritative commands is positive affirmations. Whenever you use a positive affirmation, whenever you say, I earn X number of dollars, I weigh X number of pounds, I like myself, I am responsible, I feel terrific. Whenever you use these commands and you emotionalize the commands, that's why they must be authoritative and they must be emotionalized. You drive this message from the conscious into the subconscious, and the subconscious accesses the superconscious. So emotionalize your words. Use clear authoritative commands, and every time you use a clear authoritative command, it drives the idea deeper, it activates your superconscious abilities. It also responds to decisiveness. It's very interesting. There's an expression which I like to share with you, and it's simply this. It is, get serious. I have met men and women all over the country over the last few years, and I've noticed there's an interesting thing that successful people say. When I ask them, how did you come to become so successful? I mean, what was the turning point? Where did it change? You know, the words they use over and over again are these. They say, well, I finally decided to get serious. I finally decided to get serious. You see, we talked earlier about desire and decision. That there's a lot of people have desires. A lot of people want things, and they want to be things, and they want things to change for them, and they want things to be better. But they never make the decision to do something. They are going to make the decision, and they hope to make the decision, and they plan to make the decision, but they just haven't quite gotten around to it yet. And an important part of this is commitment. If I can put this down here, is that nothing great in life happens until you make a commitment. And a commitment means you decide to do one thing to the exclusion of almost everything else. You get serious. You make a total commitment, and when you make that total commitment, when you become decisive, when you start using clear, positive words, I will do it, I do it, I can, I shall, I choose, I want, I earn, I am. When you start using commands like this, you trigger the superconscious mind, and sometimes more can happen for you in a matter of a few weeks than it's happened for you in a few years. And many of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Number 7. The superconscious mind, in a way, is like a muscle. It grows in capability as it is used and believed in. It grows in capability as it is used and believed in. That means that you can actually get it to the point, as I have in my own life, as many of my graduates have, you can get it to the point where you're plugged into this superconscious mind continuously, and you just go with the flow of life, that all the things that you require, the answers that you need, the solutions, the people, the circumstances, will be drawn into your life in exactly the order, exactly the sequence that you require. And the people that you don't need, the circumstances that are old, the circumstances that have nothing to do with where you're going, they fall off as exactly as they're no longer needed. And the more you use it, the more you believe in it, the more you trust to it, the more rapidly and dependably and predictably it works. Now let me tell you this. In all my studying of the biographies and autobiographies of great men and women, I found one thing, is that you only begin to become great as a human being to the degree to which you tap into and go with the flow of this superconscious energy. Other than that, life is always a struggle. But once you get into the flow of this energy, life seems to be on the downhill side. You seem to be going with the current. An 8th characteristic is that the superconscious mind functions best or operates best with an attitude of confident expectations. Operates best with an attitude of confident expectations. You see, confident expectations is an attitude of positive emotion. Remember we talked about before becoming an inverse paranoid, always looking for the good, always expecting the best, always believing, trusting, being absolutely convinced that something good is going to come out of everything that happens to you. This attitude of confident expectation seems to be what puts the foot on the accelerator of the superconscious mind and brings things into your life and people and what you need into your life faster and faster and faster. Another characteristic of the superconscious mind, number 9, is that it operates best under 2 conditions. Operates best under 2 conditions. Condition number 1 is when you are concentrating 100% of your time and attention on the problem. 100% concentration on the problem. And the other time when it works best is when you are concentrating 0%, when your mind is busy elsewhere. Those are the two things, but somehow the superconscious mind does not function in between. So the key, or the solution to activating the superconscious mind, is to try consciously to solve the problem. Now here is a very simple way to do it. You start to solve the problem by, number one, defining clearly what it is. Define your problem or define your goal. Write it down, discuss it, get it very clear in your mind. What is it that you're trying to achieve, avoid, or preserve? Number two is do some research. Gather information. Look around, read, talk to people, go to the library, call people who know, call experts or authorities on the subject. Get as much information as you possibly can. Almost all good decision-making comes from getting information. I've had experiences where I have had a clearly defined problem or situation, and as I'm thinking about it, I say, where can I get some information? And bang, the name of a person you may not have spoken to for a year will pop into your mind. You pick up the telephone, you call them up, and you say, hi, I'm thinking of doing this or not doing this. What do you think about that? And they have exactly the piece of information that you need to do it or not do it. Be very, very alert to that. The third thing that you do is you try consciously to solve the problem. Now that you've got the information, you ask questions, you've done the reading and the research, you've got clear in your mind, you try as hard as you possibly can with your conscious mind to solve the problem. And if that doesn't work, then you simply turn it over to the superconscious mind, almost as though you are submitting it to a large computer. Turn it over to the superconscious mind and get your mind busy elsewhere. Get your mind busy doing something else and just get on with something else completely. For instance, we'll talk about this, you could work on another project, go for a walk, do physical exercise, go out for dinner. Get your mind busy elsewhere, and at exactly the right time, what will happen is that the answer will come to you. It'll just suddenly be there. Which brings us to another characteristic of the superconscious. And it is this, is that the superconscious mind, and this is number 10, the superconscious mind brings you exactly the answer you require at exactly the right time for you. Brings you exactly the answer you require at exactly the right time. Now, one important point with regard to superconscious creativity is that when you get this answer at exactly the right time, you must act immediately. A superconscious answer is time-dated. That means that it may, if you get the answer on Thursday at noon, at 12 o'clock, the answer may not be valid at 9 o'clock on Thursday, it may not be valid at 3 o'clock on Thursday. So when you get the answer, when it comes into your mind that this is what you should do, and you'll feel a very, very strong feeling of rightness about a superconscious solution, act immediately. Sometimes you'll be working on a problem. Have you ever had this situation? You're working on a problem and you get this feeling you should phone somebody, and you say, I should phone so-and-so, but I'll do it later. And you do it later, the next day or the next week, and you call them up and they say, I wish you'd phoned me last week because I had exactly the answer you needed, or I had the person, or I had the situation, or I had the job for you, and so on. So when you get this, I know a man who built $1 billion business, and he built $1 billion business by fully understanding what we're talking about here and doing just one thing. Very limited business acumen, but he always followed his superconscious instincts. Whatever he felt was the right thing to do at any instant, he acted immediately. He immediately took action. And his action orientation was enough for him to open doors of opportunity, to get feedback and information, to self-correct, to draw to himself the people that he needed to maximize the opportunities and so on. And he went from selling cars to $1 billion business in less than 10 years simply by following his superconscious intuition and following it continuously. Now, another characteristic of the superconscious mind is that it will bring you the experiences you need to be successful. It brings you the experiences you need to be successful. This is one of the most incredible things I've ever found in my life. It brings you the experiences you need to be successful. And it'll bring you a whole bunch of different experiences. Now imagine that this is you here. All right? And let's say that you decide that you want to increase your income by 50% a year for the next 5 years. Let us say over the course of your lifetime you decide you want to become financially independent. Well, now you normally, if you're working at a job or in a field, your line of sight, as they say, is that you will somehow find a way to do it in your existing field, within your existing experience and knowledge. However, once you have set this clear goal in your mind, once you have this idea of what your goal or your star is, as you start off, you'll often find that your life will go into almost like a crazy obstacle course. It'll seem to go through a whole series of convolutions over and over, and very often you will find a year, 2 years, 5 years, you will find your goal in a totally different place, doing something totally different, something you never expected. In studying self-made millionaires in America, we find that almost half of them made their fortunes doing something totally different from what they started off doing. As they moved down the road of life, they found there was an insurmountable obstacle or barrier in that direction. The market collapsed, the technology changed, the interest rates went up, it didn't matter what it was, and they found that they had to change course and change direction, and they had to go over a hurdle. Now imagine that you're running a race and you have to go over a hurdle, and each one of these hurdles, big hurdles and small hurdles, when you look back on it, and look back on anything that you've ever accomplished that's required a tremendous amount of time and effort, and as you look back, you will see that a whole series of different things happened to you that looked like setbacks at the time, but in retrospect you say, wasn't it good that that happened? Because if that hadn't happened, then this wouldn't have happened, and this wouldn't have happened, that wouldn't have happened, and so on. And you'll find that your whole life is a series of remarkable coincidences that initially looked like difficulties or setbacks, but in retrospect they contained within them valuable lessons that you needed to learn in order to achieve the goals that you've achieved. Perfect example. In relationships, when we start going out with members of the opposite sex when we're growing up, we have a lot of relationships that don't work out. Trial and error, we experiment, we learn what it's like to get along with other people and not to get along. And we think at the time that the relationships are not working out that this is a terrible situation. It's very emotionally stressful. But then when we finally find the relationship that's right for us, we look back and we say, boy, wasn't it good that we had all those difficult problems, because if we hadn't, we'd have never reached the point where I am now, which is being in the relationship that you wanted. I think the way they say it is you have to kiss a lot of horny toads before you meet the handsome prince or princess. So each time we go over one of these lessons, we learn a valuable, each time we go over one of these hurdles, we learn a valuable lesson. Now let me tell you this too, is that very often your greatest success comes just before, or just after, your greatest failure. In Napoleon Hill's study of over 500 successful men and women, he found that almost every one of them had faced their greatest failure, the point where they felt they should have quit, there was no point in going on, everybody else told them it was ridiculous. At that point, they persisted a little bit further, and wham, they made their greatest success. You notice Thomas Edison, one of the greatest inventors of the century, was broke or nearly broke many times. And Henry Ford went bankrupt almost 3 times in the course of building his fortune. Many of the most successful men and women have fallen on their faces over and over and over again until they have finally arrived where they wanted to arrive. Now, what does this mean? It means that you have to adopt the attitude that every single time you run into a roadblock, every single time you fall down, every single time you lose some money, you lose some emotion, you lose some time as a result of a temporary setback, you have to believe that this has been sent to you as a valuable experience that is moving you toward accomplishing your good. And here is a very simple technique that you can use. And I call it the movie technique. All right? Now imagine that you go to the movie. And you get there and it's very, very late. All right? And you get in, and they let you get in even though it's toward the end of the picture, and the new picture is going to be starting in a little while. And you go in and you watch the last 10 minutes. So we call this the last 10-minute technique. All right? You watch the last 10 minutes. You see how the movie ends. You see how everything comes together. You see how the hero advances. You see how everybody achieves. You see how it all falls together and everybody ends up happy, and so on. Now, having seen the last 10 minutes, you then sit through the whole movie. However, now you sit through the whole movie and you see the danger, the drama, the tragedy, the unhappiness, you see the misunderstandings and so on. However, you see, as you watch the movie, you know how it ends. You know that there's a happy ending because you've seen the last 10 minutes. Now, this is the critical attitude. As you look at the difficulties that you face on a day-to-day basis, have this attitude that these are just what happens, but in the last 10 minutes, everything comes out right and you achieve your goal. So take a look and take this philosophic attitude toward every difficulty as this is part of the movie, but I know that in the last 10 minutes, It's all resolved. Just pretend that you already know the end of the picture, and that pretending will make the movie come out exactly as you desire, and probably better for you. Number 12, the superconscious mind makes all your words and actions, makes your words, what you say, and your actions, and their effects. And this is the critical word, the and their effects. In other words, the result of your words and actions fit a pattern consistent with your self-concept and your dominant goals. Fit a pattern consistent with your self-concept and your dominant goals. What does that mean? That means that the subconscious mind, which is a mechanical part of your thinking, makes your words and actions fit a pattern consistent with your self-concept. If you feel good about yourself, your words and actions will be consistent with that. If you feel negative or tired or fatigued, your words and actions will be consistent with that. However, the superconscious mind, once you have planted it with a very clear goal or set of instructions, will make your words and actions and the effect of those words and actions conspire together to bring you towards your goal. You've all had experiences where in the middle of a conversation something will just pop out of your mouth and you'll just say it and you never thought to say it, and it will turn out to be exactly the right thing to say in that situation. It may be in a date with a member of the opposite sex. It may be in a business meeting. It may be on a sales call. But you'll find that you'll just naturally say exactly the thing or the words that are appropriate for the situation. And you'll find that if you just trust to this and you have this feeling that you should say something, or let me tell you this also, every so often you'll be in a conversation where you're planning to say something. You're planning to bring out a particular point, you're planning to make a particular presentation, but something inside you will be saying no, it'll be blocking it. Or the other person will keep saying things that stop you from making this. What you do then is the superconscious mind is telling you don't say this because it's not consistent with your ultimate aims and desires. So whenever you feel that you're not sure whether or not you should say something or bring something up, the best rule is don't do it at all. Just hold off and you'll find out it was the best thing to do. Now there's two words, by the way, which are very popular today. One is called serendipity. Serendipity is the process of making happy discoveries. It's found that there are certain people who have the capacity to always find the things they need, the people they need. They find the book they need, the particular spice they need, the particular piece of cloth or furniture and so on. But they're always stumbling across the things that they need. And this is called serendipity or serendipitous behavior. The interesting point is when we've discovered when we've studied people who have this serendipitous capacity, we find that the discoveries that they make are all consistent with goals that they have set. In other words, you only find things when you're looking for things. That people don't make happy discoveries unless they are looking for something to contribute toward their goals. And there's another word called synchronicity. And synchronicity is the process or the coincidence of events where two or three things that are totally unrelated happen simultaneously, and we call this synchronicity or synchronizing of events. And the interesting and only factor in synchronicity is that all three of the events conspire together to help you achieve your goal. Now there's some interesting work done on synchronicity. It says that there is a higher order or a higher organization of events where events are organized on the basis of meaning. And the meaning that they have, the significance that they have, is defined by you and what your goals are. So very often you'll get a phone call, read a book, hear about an article, and visit a person, and all of those simultaneously will come together to bring you what you're after. Be very alert to these two happening. Now number 13 is the superconscious mind contains all monitor circuits. Contains all monitor circuits. That means that you can pre-program the superconscious mind, and it will work for you. Two ways that people pre-program the superconscious mind all the time is parking spaces. Many people find that by confidently expecting there to be a parking space wherever they're going, there always is. That you can pre-program your mind, sometimes 10 out of 10, 20 out of 20, to get a parking space even on a busy street, even in a busy shopping center. And if you get there and they're all full, you'll find that somebody is holding your space and they back out just as you arrive. Just as you pull up, you'll find that their taillights will go on and they'll back up, not one car earlier, not one car later, but exactly where you are. And I've had thousands of people come back to me and say that after learning this, they get parking spaces wherever they want. The key is you must believe that it works. If you don't believe that it works, it doesn't work for you. The second is waking up. There are many people who wake up with no alarm clock. Many people don't need an alarm clock at all. I haven't used an alarm clock for years. Why? You can just program your mind to wake up almost to the minute, any given time. All you have to do is do this 3 times. You'll develop the habit for life. And by the way, this is something the alarm clock industry keeps quite secret, mind you, because nobody needs an alarm clock. You can wake up at any time. You can wake up with 3 hours sleep or with 13 hours sleep. You can wake up in pitch black darkness. You can sleep for 20 minutes or 2 hours just simply by programming your mind. You can also program your mind to remember to do something, remember not to do something, and so on. And I'll tell you this so that you can write it down. It's what we call the law of superconscious activity. The law of superconscious activity. And it is this, is that because of the power of the superconscious mind, any thought, plan, goal, or idea that you can hold in your mind, your conscious mind, on a continuing basis, must be brought into reality by your superconscious mind. Any thought, plan, goal, or idea that you hold continuously in your conscious mind and that you intensely desire or intensely fear must be brought into reality by your superconscious mind. Whether positive or negative, good or bad for you, if you can hold it continuously, if you can emotionalize it, if you can visualize it, in your conscious mind, the superconscious mind will begin to organize the entire universe of experience around you to draw into your life the people and circumstances necessary to make that idea come true. What we've been saying throughout this entire program is that your thoughts are extremely powerful, that your thoughts objectify themselves, that your thoughts become your reality, and it is this understanding of this superconscious capability that makes it a fact that your thoughts do become your reality. So keep your mind on what you want, keep it off of what you don't want. Think continuously, think non-stop, think all the time only about what it is that you want, and keep your mind completely off of the things that you don't want. The reason why so many people are unsuccessful and unhappy today is because they think continuously about the things that they don't want. The reason that a very few people, the elite, are successful, happy, prosperous, growing, and so on, is because they keep their mind on what they desire. In the Bible it says the rich get richer and the poor get poor. Or it says, in the Bible it says, from him who hath, even that which he hath shall be taken away, but to him who hath, even more shall be given. The rich get richer and the poor get poor. What do the rich think about? What do the rich dwell upon? What do the rich concentrate on? What do the rich attract to themselves? What is the law of correspondence with regard to the rich? It is the rich are always thinking of production, affluence, money, wealth, and so on. What do the poor think about all the time? Yes, the poor think about poverty, lack, loss, limitation, ill health, how little money they have, and whatever you think about on a continuing basis, you draw into your life and you make into your reality because of this superconscious capability. No matter how big your goals are, no matter how far away they are, if you can hold them in your mind on a continuing basis, you can make them your reality. Well, how do you activate the superconscious mind? Here is the most powerful of all. We call this the master method of activation. It is called solitude. You activate the superconscious mind with solitude. Now, how do you use solitude? We call this go into the silence. Go and sit down quietly by yourself for 30 to 60 minutes. 30 to 60 minutes. Most people in our society have never sat quietly for 30 to 60 minutes in their entire lives. Yet I will tell you this method works 100% of the time. That any problem that you have, any difficulty, any challenge, any goal that you want to accomplish, if you'll go into the silence and sit quietly and then listen to the still small voice within. Listen to the still small voice within. The still small voice within. This is the key. You will find that at a certain point, probably at about 25 to 30 minutes, your mind will go completely clear. And then a flow of ideas will start to flow into your mind. You'll feel energy welling up inside you. And at a precise moment, as you sit there in complete silence, no cigarettes, no coffee, no music, nothing, just complete silence, at a particular moment, your mind will go clear and wham, exactly the answer you need will come at exactly the right time. And if you will get up and go and carry out that answer, it will turn out to be exactly perfect. There's a lot of things that you can do to stimulate the superconscious mind aside from solitude. Visualization, affirmation, daydreaming, relaxing, classical music, natural environments, meditation, taped affirmation, all activate the superconscious mind. Now there's three sources of a superconscious solution. Three critical sources. Number one is intuition. It'll come from inside. You'll get a very, very strong feeling that this is the answer. Number two is chance encounters. You will meet people, or you will meet books, information, material, ideas that will give you the critical answers that you require. And number three is unexpected events. Unexpected events. Things will happen that are totally unexpected, either within your life or in your external environment, and if you look into them very closely, you find that very often they contain exactly the answer, exactly the insight that you're looking for. So be very alert to intuition. Be very alert to chance encounters. Be very alert to unexpected events. Now, how do you tell a superconscious solution? This is how you tell it. Number one is that when the answer comes, it will be 100% complete. It will answer every aspect of the problem. It will be, that's it. That's the answer. It'll be so clear, and it will be simple. This is a wonderful thing. It'll be very, very simple. Number two, it'll be a blinding flash of the obvious. You will say to yourself, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I think of that? That's so obvious. It's so logical. A blinding flash of the obvious. Now, one other key is the emotional component. Is that when you get a superconscious solution, that means exactly the right answer for you, it is always accompanied by a burst of joy and energy. Your self-esteem goes up, you feel positive, you feel happy, you have what is called a feeling of elation. You feel great, that you say, wow, this is perfect, this is the answer. You get so excited sometimes you have to run and go to the bathroom, but you want to call and tell somebody, you want to do something. A superconscious solution always comes with the energy necessary to implement it. For instance, if you get a superconscious solution, just as you're going to sleep or in the middle of the night, you will wake up with your heart pounding and your mind racing and your blood streaming, and you won't be able to get back to sleep again. So let me conclude by saying this. Again, the law of superconscious activity, the most important single law that determines your destiny and everything that you do and everything that you'll ever accomplish, is that any thought, any plan, any goal, any idea that you can hold continuously in your mind must be brought into reality by the superconscious. This is the reason for the greatness of every man and woman who ever lived, every great leader, writer, author, poet, or business person, and you can tap into this at will simply by defining with crystal clarity exactly what it is you want, and then thinking only about what you want, keeping your mind only on what you desire, and keep it off of everything else until it comes into your reality.